Okay. Wow. Thanks, guys, for being here. This is a cute little group. So just the flow of the night. I'm going to do a little run through of what the year of the snake means. And then we're going to talk about what that means for your each individual zodiac sign. We're going to do a little tea after that. Josh is going to pour us some tea so we can reflect, eat a snack, whatever you need. Then we're going to go into the I Ching portion. So you're going to learn how to do that, and then we'll just mingle and eat snacks and celebrate. So,
does anybody want a pen? Yeah, just start from one side.
Yeah, you might want one. There's especially for the I Ching part. Yeah. Ooh, it's so precious. Yeah.
You don't want your
own. Okay. So, first I'd like to just say what brought me here is my teachers. So I have Li Shifu, Liu Ming, Nicholas Hancock, and Neri Caldwell on all the various inquiries into what time is. And so this is a synthesis of their work. I don't really call myself much of a astrologer or diviner. I'm just kind of their student, and I'm here to give you a little briefing on what they've got to say about their quest through time, and hopefully that can help you guys in your quest through time. So first, we're going into the yin wood snake here. So what does that mean? Basically, this knowledge comes from thousands of years of the Chinese observing more almanac-like things that were going on in the year, and over time finding patterns. So it's very different from our Western sort of idea of astrology, and it's more about the big picture. This little like abiding sense of self was not really much of importance to them. So, but we're gonna get a taste of both because we're like modern people and we are like, ooh, what about me? So, what's my year gonna be like? You know, wealth, romance, everything. So, with the Chinese view of time, we have to start at the very beginning. So in your booklet, you're going to see some images, and I'll talk you through them. So basically, we have to start at the beginning. And this big circle here is known as the Wu Ji. And this is this like supreme nothingness, or the everlasting unbounded, the emptiness and the void. So this is this sort of primordial space of chaos and nothingness. And when we look at this from a Western point of view, we might try and look for similarity and, oh, is this God? You know, it's like, it's not really a God replacement theory. This is completely different. So we can kind of just, let's set that aside, empty our cups. And so once movement starts to stir, we get into this symbol that you might recognize below, that we say the Tai Chi 2, or the Tai Chi map. We know it as the yin-yang symbol. And what Tai Chi means is the supreme ultimate. So within that, this gives birth to all the things. So if you look at this symbol, the yin, and somehow this got flipped, and this will happen sometimes when you reorient things, but it actually should be flipped over. So the white part is on top. That's represented by the yang qi. And the yang is light qi, and it goes up. And then the dark part is yin qi, and it falls down. And so we look at this representation of yang is this unbroken line, or the unyielding. And then the yin is this broken line, or the yielding. And in the ancient Chinese lore, we would think the Nuwa and Fuxi, these are the ancient mother and the ancient teacher. So these were the original yin and yang. They're not the Adam and Eve, don't worry, we can let go of that too. Very different. So basically, at the height of yin, we see is the seed of yang, and that's what that dot means. And at the height of yang, we see the seed of yin. And so this is kind of representative of a day cycle. So yin is night and yang is day. Sometimes we can think of this as sort of this male and female, which can kind of feel very static terms. That's not my first thought that I want you to go to when you think of yin and yang. It's way too dynamic for that. And so day and night is a good place to start. And so this little figure, it might look really neat and tidy, but this is actually just representing the chaos, and that there's no real perfect, but we have this idea of how to break things down. What it leaves room for is there's this wobble or this irregularity, and this play, and room for I don't know. So this rhythm or sense of time is this perpetual alternation between yin and yang. So it becomes a circle rather than linear. And really, there's not much of an evolution. It's just kind of going on and on, no beginning, no end. And so what we moved out of last year, or Tuesday was the last day of the Yang Wood Dragon Year, we're moving into a Yin Wood Snake Year. So sometimes when we go from a Yang year to a Yin year, it can feel like a big relief. We're like, okay, like I can finally rest. Sometimes when we go into a Yang year from a Yin year, you're like, finally, things are moving. So at first, if you just kind of sit with the chi of this week, maybe it'll feel kind of like, ooh, okay, I can kind of like take a break because we're going into this Yin year. And so, but we all have yin and yang inside of us. And so these qualities are balancing and changing and reacting to each other. In physiology, we can think of it in terms of homeostasis, just trying to maintain our temperature the right way, right? And so the closest we can get to this balance is actually through stillness. And so like in the Wu Ji, that is our place that we seek to go to for meditation, or the point zero. So that's the stillness we seek within that. And so with the, if you move on down to our little relation of time and space. So this is this ancient basis of how we look at heaven, human, and earth, or Tian Di Ren. And so the Chinese perspective, they say Tian, and this means, it kind of translates more to sky, but heaven is, we have this Judeo-Christian culture where we think of heaven as this, it has a lot of connotation. So if that has too much heaviness and context to it, just think about the sky. It's actually more accurate than heaven, or the cosmos. So this is the pure yang, the initiating, the creative, the unformed. And then the earth, or Di, is the pure yin. It's nourishing and it's formed. And humans are kind of just, or sentient beings, are just kind of crushed in between. And our job is to kind of be in charge of managing both and taking good care of it. So we come from this fruition of the union of yin and yang. So that's kind of that's our job here. So when we look at what it means to be a yin wood year, there's two parts of it. There's a heavenly chi, and then there's an earthly chi. So this heavenly chi, usually we don't talk about. You say, oh, it's a snake year. We usually don't talk about the heavenly chi. So the yin wood comes from the 10 heavenly stems. And so what they are is there's a yin and yang pair of each of the 5 elements. So where does the 5 elements come from, and what the heck is that? You can flip to the next page just briefly. And this is a story of a life cycle. And just like any life cycle, like we were just talking about, these are cycles. So there's no beginning and end. It's going around and around. And what we get to is this ancient Chinese idea of animism. And so with animism, it's not just us that can move around that are living. Like this fireplace has a lifespan, this wood flooring has a lifespan. They're rocks and they're wood, but someday they're going to be disintegrated back into nothingness. So they go back around and become something. So if we look at our little cycle here, we see, how do we even start with a cycle that doesn't have a beginning and end? Well, let's start with wood because it's representative of springtime. And so this is the fresh chi coming out of the ground, maybe the little sprouts coming up in summertime. And so that grows over the summer. And then at some point in the heat of the summer, it can burn into a fire. And then the ashes goes back into the ground and that becomes earth. And then that ground becomes compounded and compressed and contracted. It becomes metal. And then this is a little stretch, but the metal is a surface in which water can condensate upon. And then that water goes and feeds the little plant coming up again. So this is our cycle. And so the heavenly chi of this year is wood. And that's kind of a relief because the snake is a brutal one. And so we have a baby snake. We have a little baby snake. I don't want to say brutal because we need our snakes. We need our snakes more than now, more than ever. But basically, what we have together with the 12 zodiac animals, as you see on the next page, these are the 12 earthly branches. That's what they're known in the system. It's called Tian Gan Di Zhi, and that's the heavenly stems and earthly branches together. So this is kind of like this grinding of the earthly chi and the heavenly chi together. And it's constantly recombining. And with that, 5 elements and then 12 animals, we have 5 times 12 is 60. So it's really your cycles of 60 that we get to. So we're going to talk about 1965 a little bit. Stay tuned. So in order to get into the snake year, we kind of have to talk about, you're getting the point that we're going to relate to things. Like the yin and yang are all relative to something. So they're not exact terms. They're all relative to each other. So we came out of the dragon year. How does everyone feel about it? It's kind of, it's wild. So it was a wood dragon. So it's young, and it's the dragon chi is very flamboyant and loud, and it has that naivety of a young dragon. So it was kind of clumsy. It was explosive. Things happen very fast. So the ancient idea of a dragon, like I said last year, is not our idea of it. It's actually this composite of all other animals together. So it's kind of this recombination of things. And it was said to bring the storms of change. And that's what we got. Like, for instance, if you look at most world leaders, this year changed. It was an explosive change. Everything shook up. So the changing of the guard, that sort of changing of the head. And so while we had that really flamboyant and confident energy of the dragon, the snake is it's a much more introverted underground creature. So its power comes in its ability to sit and wait in the darkness and find the right moment to strike. So if we're looking at our little our little 12 earthly branches here. You say we're kind of near the top. We're in the snake year. So the dragon, then the snake, and then the horse. How does that even make sense? That's like a really weird sequence, right? The dragon is said to be this really regal expression of harmonized yin and yang. And then the horse is this embodiment of like pure action. And so the dragon year was like this year to get this flash of inspiration, paired with that confidence and ambition to do big things. The snake year, however, is going to be this time to reflect and glean like insights from last year. Not get too hung up on doing exactly what we did last year. And so in a sense, you see the horse year at the very top. It's kind of like our noon of the yearly cycles. It's the height of the yang qi. So this is a year we get to rest. Thank goodness, right? So enjoy this fall summit, take a drink of water, take a rest before we get into this yang fire horse year coming, because it's a big one. And so while the dragon was this very celestial energy, the snake is much more earthbound. It's kind of like an earthly dragon. So dragons are real. Dragons are celestial. I didn't say they weren't real. I believe in dragons. So while it's returning to Earth, I do not expect this year to mean we'll have any more of a normal year. The snake is really mysterious. It's almost unknowable. And sometimes only known by the ghost of its past self from its sloughed-off skin. So while the dragon is this composite of everything, the snake is nothing. And so this is a year to practice reluctance, a little bit of holding back, observing, and waiting for the right time. So for some of us, and we'll get into this is going to be hard for all of our action-oriented people. So we'll look at what that means for all of us. So when I was looking at this and reading about different snakes, a friend told me about this iridescent snake. And some snakes, I think boas and pythons, have iridescence to them. I don't know if anyone has snakes or has seen them. But there's this little tiny one that really caught my eye. And it's mostly black, but it has iridescent scales. Does everybody know what that means? Kind of that rainbow, like a bubble, or like water, oil on water. Or I think some Teslas come in this color now. Like you pay like way too much money. So this is iridescence is all visible light being reflected back. And to me, although this wood snake isn't exactly rainbow, I think of this pairing of scales and the yin wood sort of fresh springtime chi is really similar to that. So, and I guess they're especially like shiny right after they've shed their skin. So this specific snake is called the Xenopeltis unicolor, or the sunbeam snake. And so in Latin, Xenopeltis means strange skin. And it's kind of really cool to look at them. They change depending on what angle you look at them. So I kind of am like, I kind of feel like this energy might be how we need to approach this year. It's going to change depending on what angle we look at it from. So from like an outsider's perspective, the snake is very strange. But if we take our time and we get to know our snake friends a little better, you're going to see that you can gain a lot of insight from getting on the ground floor and slithering through things. And snakes, the way they move is they're basically forming and weaving and coiling around their surroundings to get around. So find a snake friend. We've got some here. So like I said, we're coming from this yang year, moving into this yin year. So it's time to really let out a little bit of steam. While last year was explosive, the danger here is for it to be a little implosive, especially for some of us who are more social creatures. So if we wanted to look at like what implosion means, it's less pressure on the inside, more pressure on the outside. And what the snake represents to us is that everything is an illusion. And so when you're feeling a lot of pressure on the outside, we should just remember that this is an illusion, and find your people, and find your kindness for yourself. Or else you're going to get into this space where we could just crunch and suck into this vacuum space. So the snake is what understands how to deal with that vacuum and that meaninglessness, and finding the meaning in the meaninglessness. Especially when we live in a society that is we are built on a system that expects us to forever be able to expand. So this is hard for most of us. So don't forget, we're all human before we're part of this strange culture we're in. But the point of this contracting is we're going to expand next year, and that's a necessary step. So when this year might feel a little lonely, just remember this is a necessary step to get to our height of noon, to get to that fire horse energy. And so just like we have to contract in order to expand, we have to sleep, we have to dream in order to be awake. And who is to say which one is more real? They're pretty much necessary for each other, and we don't really know what they are. But the ancient Chinese thought of dreaming as a way to regulate your qi, and to inspire like a better management of your habits. You ever wake up feeling kind of resolved? Like that's you basically managing your habits and your sleeping time. So good work. These dreams that take care of things can inspire, like these clarity dreams can inspire more profound management in our waking life. So that brings me to a very famous snake. Anyone want to take a guess at this very famous snake who has something to do with dreams? And I'll give you a hint, 1965, he was alive. What? Freud? Yes! Martin Luther King Jr. Okay. Yeah. So he was born in 1929, and he had the audacity to believe in his dream. So we're not going to talk about what happened in 1968. We're going to talk about what happened in the last Yinwen snake year, 1965. Does anyone know about Bloody Sunday? Anyone alive then? No one would want to admit. Okay, so 5. Okay, should have brought my mom. Shoot. So what happened was there was 3 marches. The first one was led by John Lewis and Hosea Williams, and they were going to march from Selma to Montgomery. This was a few thousand people. They were protesting the segregational system, although the Constitution was changed that they could vote. That was not the case. In a lot of places, there were less than 2% of African Americans in that county registered to vote, even though they were about half of the population. So they were marching to protest this, and state troopers and county members attacked them on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. And it was tear gas and billy clubs and a lot of violence. And so 2 days later, Martin Luther King was leading, this time, a group of 2,000 people. And there was another band of people at this bridge. And so he is a snake, and he had this wisdom. He said, we're going to stop here, we're going to pray, and we're going to turn around. This is not the time. And so he saved maybe more violence from happening. So then less than 2 weeks later, 25,000 people marched. And this was with the federal guard and the FBI to protect them. And they went and they got to Montgomery, and they delivered this speech to Governor Wallace, who was, just one of those governors in the 60s, who was like a white guy, And And so what they got through was the seed to get better voting rights. And so what we can learn from that is this, we can have this energy of pushing through, but sometimes there's a time to wait. So I'm not saying don't show up to the marches this year, don't show up. I'm saying these things are going to happen, but have that reluctance, have that keen eye of like, do we need to push through right now, or is that not the right time? So when there is an injustice or like an absurdity, the snake energy is the perfect type of energy to take care of that. So climate scientists, lawyers, comics, snake comics. This is a good year for snake comics. Because they're some of the funniest people. They can find the little hard-boiled truth at something and find the exact right time to like sneak in there and speak up. So even if things are feeling kind of bleak, the snake year is the one year that we can seek this sort of meaningfulness in realizing what actually is. So while there can be a chance to get carried away and wild ideas, this is the year that we're going to get to the bottom of some things and find that truth. So when we if you wanted to say get a bunch of followers on TikTok or earn $1 million or something, you could get it in the year of the snake, but what you would find within that is actually that sort of unquenchable thirst and unquenchable greed. So this is the year for finding that out. But my last part of this is we have a lot of strong years to come. So this is a really year of building and finding that the solitude and the peace rather than the loneliness. So we have, I'll just give you a little teaser of what's coming up. We have the fire horse in 2026. That's a lot of yang energy. It's a lot of movement. Then we have this community building energy of the fire goat in 2027. Then we have the magnetic and mischievous energy of the earth monkey in 2028. And then finally, this is as far as I'm going to go. We could go on forever, but we have this calculated mental energy of the earth rooster in 2029. So that's to help get you, that's a little primer on how to get through the next 4 years.
So is every two the same element?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if we built this, if we look back to our 12 earthly branches, that's like our little clock. And so say we start at the rat down low and we put 10 of our heavenly stems around, we would get around to the dog before we needed to start over. So say we started over, we would get this spiral shaped thing, and then we would get to 60 before we would get back to the yin wood rat, and then we would start over. So that's how it kind of cycles. Snake is always yin, yeah. So that's why there's 60 rather than 120.
So every element or every animal is always the same element?
No. So every animal will have 5 different iterations of it.
Oh,
so
yin and yang is different than that. Right. Every animal is always yin or yang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And then each of these animals has their own energy. I didn't note that because that's more complicated. But
is the line on this symbol like accurate? Like those ones are yin and these ones are yang?
Which line? Oh no. They're alternating. So snake, you can think of. We can just look at snake because we've been talking about this yin wood snake. Snake is yin. Snake. It's always yin. And the snake's own internal energy is actually fire. So this is the snake's internal energy is yin fire, and the horse's internal energy is yang fire. So it's the coiling. We're really coiling up before this big fire. So now the part you've all been waiting for, we're going to get into our animals. And if you are shy, you don't have to speak up, but if we get around to each of your little animals, we can say who's who, okay? Get to know each other a little better. So here we have the rat. Any rats in here? Okay, we got our resident rat. Awesome. Okay, so rats, like snakes, are very observant. They have those bulging eyes. And they have this energetic and survivalist quality to their observance. The rat looks at the situation really up close, and although they are not overly in depth of their observance, they are good at finding the way to get through with the least effort. And often rats you guys collect stuff. It's crazy. Every rat I know has a rat nest. So the rat, however, does put effort into accumulating all the little fragments and friends it can carry for its own safety and security. The snake year will force the sometimes frenzied scurrying of the rat into being comfortable with the uncomfortable uncertainty. The rat is a fairly communal and social creature, mostly because the rat is very realistic about the fact that they cannot do it alone. So the loneliness of the snake year can be difficult for the rat. Your strength is in being resourceful amongst the chaos. Save those resources and your energy for next year, the year of the horse, when you'll need it. So if we look at our cycle again, you guys are going to get sick of me. Go back to page 2. The horse is exactly opposite the rat. So when it's your opposite year, it can be seen as a year that you're going to have to look at yourself through the mirror and through the tube at some of the things that are hardest for you. So, so save up your energy this year. Look, you've got us. Okay, so we get to the ox.
I'm the ox.
She's the ox. Our ox energy. Anybody else an ox? Okay, so this is Ashley's year. So the ox, snake, and rooster are known as the barnyard trio, or a trine of compatibility. This is similar to an astrology where we have the water signs and the earth signs, etc. So they are trined together because of their qualities of practicality. Ashley is like one of the best trip packers for being in the wilderness, including like lights and music. Yeah. So this is going to be a good year for the ox because of this compatibility. The ox is in charge of manifesting the blueprints to fruition for the snake architect. And the ox is happiest when there is a job to be done. The ox's strength is in its ability to plow through the work, obstacles, and life with diligence, often getting satisfaction from the jobs that the rest of us think of as mundane. So they deal with this snake year energy not even by really recognizing this revolt against reality of the snake. They just continue. They have a strong sense of tradition, and although this year could shake some of us up, they are ready to continue business as usual. If you have an ox friend around, keep them close for their insight into their unflappable nature in the face of a somewhat introverted, hypnotic, seductive chaos of this year. The danger for the ox this year is to stagnate a bit. So a bit of advice for the ox, from whom most of us should be seeking advice from, is to work to find your inner motivation in what you do this year. So, tiger, do we have any tigers? Okay, woo. Okay, the tiger stripes are representative of their nature, bipolar. They have two modes, hunting or resting. This is a good year to rest. And if they don't want to rest, well, they can get restless. So here lies the potential for trouble. Tigers are good leaders, they're energized strategists, and they love figuring out how to tackle challenges, especially anything that can cause them problems. The trouble is with the snake, it is so evasive, the tiger doesn't know how to go about winning in a battle. So this year, instead of fighting, find comfort in the cave for some much needed rest. You'll need to work on feeling their way through the dark to find their true motives, storing up their power for 2026, the year of the horse, when they'll have supportive yang energy. So the horse year, the tiger year, and the dog year are in the compatibility trine of the martial trio. So these are kind of more the most yang energetic signs. So it'll be a good year for you next year. So rest assured, this resting will be good. So the danger for the tiger and the snake here is they can sometimes get moody or dramatic. Instead, focus on healing your old patterns. So the rabbit, do we have any rabbits in here? Oh, we have a rabbit. Okay, so it's been a tough few years for rabbits in this cycle, but you're almost out of it. I think it's going to be slightly better than last year. So what rabbits share with snakes is they go underground to burrow for safety, but snakes are not your really favorite neighbor to have shaking up your nest underground. So hopefully you've prepared well because similar to the rabbit's nervousness inspires a sense of vigilance. So if you haven't arranged your safe place, maybe it's hobbies or social circles or like a passion of yours, it's not really a good year to find that. But the strength of the rabbit comes from reading a situation in an instant. You have this divine like insight that can happen. And so what's hard about the snakes and the rabbits' insight is there's just nothing to find insight on the snake's take on reality, which is this hard-boiled truth of it doesn't even matter. So the rabbits are known for having this insight, but they're not necessarily the ones to have this analysis discussion. Go to the roosters for that. So find a rooster friend. But listen to your intuition, but don't let it drive you crazy because not a lot's going to make sense this year. So my advice to you is to let go of that trying to make sense of it all and find your safety in taking things day by day. So. All right, dragons. Have any dragons? Okay, nice. What a nice little variety of folks we have here. Okay, so it was just your year. I hope it was great and grand.
Can I ask real quick?
Yeah.
I remember 2022 was the year of the tiger.
Yeah.
And I was like, heck yeah.
Yeah.
This is going to be my year.
Yeah.
But then I talked to a couple of astrologists.
Yeah.
And your year actually is, I don't know, that's why I wanted to ask you. Is it more challenging?
It's like for some, yes. For some, no. I think like our rat year isn't necessarily, maybe 2020 was a really good rat year because we were all hiding inside. But if it's on you to go do the things, some really love it and some really don't. And it depends on the signs, and I think it depends on the individual. And there's a lot more to that elemental compatibility with the year for you. And then, we have like personal lives that maybe are like, yeah. So sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's tough, especially a martial sign like the tiger. It's like you're going to be carrying all the yang energy. So if you're prepared well, maybe, but not always. So the dragon, we were talking about this confident, flamboyant character. They might have a little hard time passing off the spotlight, and it might make you feel a little empty. The dragon is about manifesting everything all at once, and the snake is about disappearing. So that can feel a little like a void to you. However, this is an opportunity to answer that long burning question of what you want out of life. It's a blank slate, The dragon has a broad perspective and tends to be bad at details. But in a very large picture, that vision of the dragon, you might never notice. So they feed on a sense of connectedness and succeed by having a wide view. They normally demonstrate their intelligence through action and thrive when it is done by the seat of their pants. And so you're willing to take risks, but this is really not the year to go off and keep doing dragony things and taking risks. So you can take it as a gift instead, to change your perspective, as this year offers a limitless potential to create the life you want. and deal with the quiet, if you can deal with the quietude of the snake year. So my advice is to stay focused and practical. Look to your ox friends to be more practical, and perhaps your rooster friends, and how to stay focused, because this could be a big year for manifesting your dream life from this sort of blank slate or void of this year. And then be careful too much in indulging in your fantasy. Okay, snakes. Do we have any snakes? Okay, nice. So this is your year to be the teacher, as that is the best way that you learn. This year we are looking up to you to help us find wisdom in the emptiness and the vastness. You know how things work from observation and finding the right timing, like we were saying, that right time to strike. So remember what you already practiced, the patient to find the right time to act. So when snakes are comfortable, they can make the greatest comics. They have that sharp precision of their humor because they can, they have this smallness, but they strike at exactly the right time, and they strike deeply into that hard-boiled reality. And snakes are also great actors. It's almost as if they can dissolve themselves into the part, like a method actor. And so in this year, we might see some of your best and worst qualities come out at the same time. The negative qualities of the snake are nihilistic, depressed, and hopeless. The positive qualities of the snake are wisdom, inner freedom, and the ability to let go of things that obstruct you. So it could be a really good year for spiritual awakening, but you have the choice this year. And it won't come without your choice to kind of go towards the good qualities. However, it's okay to go inward. This is your place of power. So if you're going inward and that leads you to some depression and hopelessness, just know that this could transform into this sense of wisdom and this unfettered freedom from letting go of the illusion or delusions of meaning and value. Does anyone know the rapper Brother Ali? I don't know, maybe just a 90s kid thing. Okay, so he's an albino rapper, and I was listening to the song and I was like, oh my gosh, this is snake-like. And then I was like, oh, he was born in a snake year. He says, I'm not a star, I'm the darkness in between. So some beauty in that for snakes and all of us. Horses. I'm a horse. You're a horse too. Okay, I'm a horse. I'm a horse. Okay. 3 horses. Okay, this could potentially be a tough year for the horse. Although the snake transforms into the horse's characteristics have this inverse quality to that of the snake's. So the snake is the stillness before that clapward strike, that sort of starting of the race. So the potential of the horse is born from the stillness or this contraction of the snake, like a coiled up spring. The horse has this energized, practical, disciplined, sociable energy who like to work, create, build, and love to have wild adventures. Their fun, humorous external energy is a mirror to the inward, absurdist, existential, and dark humor of the snake. Horses thrive when they can figure out mechanically how things work, maybe by constructing models or with their body kinesthetically. I talk with my hands, I'm a horse. So they like to get the walkthrough of things to feel it in their body. So the trouble for horses in the snake year is that all things that feel natural and normal aren't really there this year. And the snake's version of embodiment is actually just to dissolve. And so horses need to find their inner creative and inventive qualities they share with the snake to reach beyond the veil, to dream up big plans for next year. So in martial arts, there's, when you're punching, you're chambering this hand. And so it's always chambered here. So this is our year to really work on our chambering of the hand before the strike. So when things get hard this year, remember to keep up or restart your habits of various movement or creative practices to stay sane. And maybe you'll gain some insight before your big year in 2026. Okay, goats. Do we have any goats? Yes. We have Josh and Eve. Great. Nice. Okay. So the goat is the king of the animal kingdom in China. The ancient or the Chinese symbol for goat has the word for king in it.
Greatest of all time.
Yeah, exactly. The goat. Exactly. So it's a very social, leaderly type of energy, it's a herd animal. So the goat values the interconnectedness and organization of everyone. That's where they find their value. And the snake is very much a loner. So please try not to take it personally when your greatest attempts to gather your people are met with lackluster responses. All of us will be dealing with this internalized energy compared to the outward energy of the dragon in our own ways. We will still need the invite, goats. It's a good year to figure out what motivates you internally. So take some solo time or time with your fellow social animals, perhaps rabbits and pigs that are feeling some of the loneliness of the snake year, to dream up what big visions can come to fruition in the next 2 years. So being present with your deeper motives or truths are enough for you this year. Don't get over idealistic and focus on what matters to you: close relationships, healing, and self-care. Okay, monkey. Monkeys? Oh, yes, of course we do. Yes, goat, sheep, ram. So, yeah. So the snake and the monkey have a lot of similarities, and the snake and the monkey have this like special connection that's not in the trines at all. So it's kind of like your exalted year. So the snake is like this method actor. I kind of think the snake is like the goth if we're looking at like high school archetypes, and the monkey is like this. The way the monkey acts things out is like a mime, or like the class clown. And so the goth and the like class clown are looking at each other like, I see, we're making a big joke out of all this, but there's something in common here. We're just doing it like very differently, but we're doing the same thing. We're kind of making fun of it, but the snakes is very different. But you guys share this. So the monkey sees the world as a big joke, often taking risks and trying out innovative combinations because they don't take things too seriously. The snake offers the monkey inner wisdom to their playful blithe. So this monkey mischief might happen to become an insightful joke. The monkey's impulse to test social conventions can go better this year to provoke change and insights rather than just be a distasteful mess. Deep insights can be cloaked in comedy, and we will need laughter to keep us upright this year. So monkey on. Your ability to make light of things that can't easily be talked about unless it is in a joke form can be benefited by the wisdom of the snake year. The monkey has a tendency to get carried away in fantasy and delusion, so the snake year can offer some clarity to this tendency of yours. Reinvent yourself this year. Try on a new skin. Just don't get too carried away in a fantasy world, or the horse year will be a hard crash back to practicality. There is a high-strung quality to monkeys, but unlike the rat or the rabbit, they possess the ability to jump lightly from one thing to the other. All right, any roosters? Yes. Okay. The rooster has a piercing, sharp, cool, and poignant energy, and they're often said to be the most intelligent of the 12 signs. They are similar to the monkey, but more fine-tuned. Where the monkey might show up with their jerry-rigged solution, the rooster shows up with this perfect tool they got on the internet or something. And they excel at analysis and can retain focus for the longest time to find the best solution. Where this has a potential to go dark for the rooster, the snake offers its wisdom to see through the darkness, to release that attachment to the meaning, and to not get caught up in too much. How do they do this? The snake will help the rooster to let go of the map and to pay attention to the territory. Just like words inherently have no meaning in and of themselves, we just make a choice to attach value. This is a really challenging notion to the rooster because they can strive so hard to get to the heart of something with all these words. And when the answer is nonsensical, they can be left with this feeling of unfulfillment or deceit when they break through. But the snake, in seeing the meaning in the meaninglessness, which is kind of that it doesn't matter at all, and everything is illusion or delusion, and things are innately empty, and there's a whole lot of empty space out there. So this is comforting to the rooster. And the snake offers to the rooster the ability to float in the theoretical space of possibility and impossibility, and teaches the rooster how to play with the seemingly mixed up values and to take what is useful. So snake, rooster, and ox. That's their little trine. So the dog, do we have any dogs? I think we're out of people, right? We have no more dogs. Okay. We're going to read it for all your dog friends. David Bowie was a dog.
I'm
So just
invested enough now.
think of read it. Okay, the dog represents loyalty and close connections or alliances. They value themselves based upon these relationships and duties of service. Just like when you gain the trust of a dog, it is forever, and just as likely you can stir their earliest distrust with an accidental nudge of your foot. In a snake year, the social gathering potential is not quite as strong, and the dog is forced instead to explore their individuality, their lone wolf side. Dogs have the opportunity this year to discover who they are, not from their past roles, but what things they would like to express from the inside. Their inner loyalty and service, when turned towards themselves, can bring wonderful works of art and expression. They have both. Right? Nothing is freer than the dog howling at the moon, so let it out. Be your crazy howling at the moon self. You have some creativity the world needs right now. Dogs often have a strong individualistic quality, but usually are found dedicated to a mission. Something could come from seeking solitude, although this could be challenging to your identity as a dog, so shed your skin and embrace your hobbies, passions, and dreams. Next year will be a much better year in the year of your ally, the horse. Okay, pig. Yes. Honorary pig. I know we've been talking a lot about the inverses and opposites, but this is our inverse year. So the pig and the snake are exact opposites. The snake is the most detached from its senses, and the pig is the most attached to their senses, not necessarily consciously, though. The horse's embodiment is very much like consciously attached, but they're very attached. So a pig recently told me of their tendency to order 6 entrees instead of 1. But they're not selfish with their indulgences either, and they are seen as some of the most generous signs. Since they are driven by their senses and indulgences, I visualize a beautiful charcuterie board, even though that's probably the pig that, I don't know. Those are delicious to look at and delicious to eat. Pigs love and believe in people, often tending to see the positives in the humanitarian side of people. Meanwhile, the snake can be the most distrusting, and often the most depressed. All of the things that feel natural to the pig can feel challenged by the snake year because everything could feel a bit depressed. What is helpful here is that the pig is the least depressed of all the animals. And we need to get invites from the pig to their parties. Similar to the ox and the dragon, they are unfazed by this stuff, but it could feel a little less enjoyable than most years. When it is your opposite year, there is the perfect opportunity to see your strengths in your weaknesses. So it could be a sobering year to have your senses and indulgences taken away to bring some clarity to clean up. So it may be a good year to mature a bit. Nevertheless, we need this fun, lovingness, humor to help us smile and have fun. Okay, so let's do some tea. Whew. How are we doing, everyone?
What animal do you gravitate towards?
Gravitate towards?